In that chamber, with Yasodhara's silence still heavy in the air, Rahula did not look away. He looked at the Buddha the way only a child can look, without strategy, without politics, without the protection of distance, and the Buddha felt it instantly. This was not a debate. This was not philosophy. This was the sharp, living consequence of the night he left. Rahula had grown in a world where his father was a name, a story, a missing presence. Now the story stood in front of him, calm and real, and something in the child moved forward. Not with anger, but with a simple, relentless need to understand. The Buddha met that need with tenderness, because awakening does not erase love. It clarifies it. And in that clarity, he saw the question beneath Rahula's eyes. What do I receive from you? What do I inherit? What is mine? Not as greed, not as arrogance, but as the child's ancient instinct for ground, for belonging, for something stable in a world that had already taught him absence. And in a way that surprised even him, the Buddha felt the ache of it in his own body, because even when the mind is awake, the heart still recognizes the cost of time. In the days that followed, Kapilavastu watched closely. They had expected drama. A prince returning should create either celebration or conflict. But what unfolded was quieter, and therefore more unsettling. The Buddha did not demand loyalty, and he did not ask to be forgiven. He moved through the city with the same stillness he carried everywhere. He accepted food the way he accepted silence. He spoke when speech could relieve confusion, and he stayed quiet when words would only decorate pain. Rahula stayed near him, drawn like a small flame, drawn toward a larger fire. Not because the Buddha asked him to, but because something in the child recognized safety in that steadiness. People whispered in corners, in markets, near temple gates. Some said the prince had returned to steal hearts, even from his own family. Others said the only way a wound can heal is by finally being touched. Yasodhara watched it all with a strength that did not perform. She did not fight the Buddha's presence, and she did not surrender to it. She measured truth by its weight, not by its beauty. And the Buddha, seeing her, did not try to soften the world for her. He simply stayed honest inside it. Because to return with clarity is not to erase pain. It is to stop lying about it. Then came the moment that would echo far beyond the palace. Rahula approached the Buddha openly, in front of others, in the clear light of day, and asked for what a child believes is owed. He did not ask for a story. He did not ask for comfort. He asked for an inheritance, for what belonged to him as a son. And the Buddha did not respond with romance or symbolism. He did not distract the child with legends. He looked at Rahula and saw exactly what was happening. A child was reaching for security. A child was trying to anchor himself in something that would not disappear. And the Buddha knew that if he gave him wealth, he would give him something that time could not take. Something fearful would cling to. Something that would eventually become lost. So he did the only thing he could do without lying. He offered a different inheritance. Not the inheritance of a palace, but the inheritance of a path. Not an identity to protect, but a clarity that protects the mind from confusion. This was where everything changed, because now the Dharma was no longer outside the home. It was inside the family itself, asking to be lived where love is strongest and attachment is most tempting. The Buddha called one of his closest disciples, not to create a spectacle, but to make the moment clean and precise. And in the simplest way possible, he allowed Rahula to step into the life of practice, not as punishment, not as rejection, not as a way to escape his mother's pain, but as a way to receive something that could not be stolen by aging, sickness, or death. Those watching did not all understand it. Some felt moved, some felt disturbed. Because in a palace, inheritance means continuity of power. It means bloodline, status, proof that what you built will outlive you. But the Buddha offered an inheritance that dissolved the hunger for permanence itself, an inheritance that asked for humility instead of rank, attention instead of pride, and sincerity instead of performance. And for Rahula, this did not feel like being taken away. It felt like being seen, like being given a direction that did not depend on a father staying, or a kingdom enduring, or a story remaining intact. He was not being handed a thing, he was being handed a way of meeting life. When King Suddhodana heard what had happened, something in him tightened, not because he hated the Dharma, but because he recognized the pattern. First the son, now the grandson. The palace was not losing people one by one. It was losing the illusion it had been built to protect. The king confronted the Buddha, not with violence, but with a father's grief dressed in royal authority. He spoke of family duty, of tradition, of how a home cannot survive if its children keep vanishing into renunciation. And the Buddha listened fully without dismissing him. Because he did not return to Kapilavastu to win arguments. He returned to meet suffering where it lives. And for this king, suffering was the fear of being left behind by time, and by love, and by meaning itself. The Buddha did not shame him for that fear. He named it gently. He showed him that the urge to control a child's future is often fear disguised as responsibility, the same fear that once built walls around a prince. Then he did something important. He created a boundary, a rule born not from control, but from compassion. If a parent does not consent, a child should not be taken from the home. Because freedom should never be built on unnecessary harm. The Dharma was not here to destroy families. It was here to purify love from possession and to turn care into clarity. And for Yasodhara, watching this unfold, something shifted again. Not relief, not closure, but a new kind of seeing. She saw that the Buddha was not returning to erase the past, but to carry it without distortion. She saw he was not trying to steal Rahula away, but to offer him something that could keep him steady in a life that would still contain loss. Still the ache remained, because even a sacred path does not remove the human cost of change. The Buddha did not try to talk her out of that ache. He let it be real, because real compassion does not rush a heart to heal. It stays close while it heals. That night, the palace felt different. Not safer, not happier, but more honest. The old story of the prince was fading for everyone now, not just for Siddhartha. In its place, a new question rose, quieter but deeper. If the Dharma can enter a home, what does love become when it is no longer mixed with clinging? What does fatherhood become when it is no longer built on possession? What does family become when it is no longer used as a wall against impermanence? The Buddha looked at Rahula, and he did not see a child who belonged to him. He saw a mind at the beginning of a long path, a path that would include discipline, mistakes, learning, and the slow sharpening of awareness. And as the palace slept, something else began to form in the background, bigger than one family. The Sangha itself was evolving, not just as a group of renunciants, but as a living answer to suffering, learning how to hold truth without breaking love. And yet, just as the palace began to understand what had happened, another tension was already rising beneath the surface, quiet but unstoppable. Because the moment a child receives the Dharma as inheritance, the world does not stay the same. In the next episode, the Buddha will face a challenge that cannot be solved with silence alone. A challenge that will test the Sangha and the meaning of compassion itself.